Okay. Can y'all hear me? Is it not on? Yeah? You might raise it up a little bit then? Can y'all hear that now? Be sure we can all hear? Okay. Okay, we'll get started tonight. I'll give the announcements. Dr. George Rollins, father of Beth Futrell and grandfather of Olivia Chappell, passed away yesterday. Beth left yesterday morning and was able to get there before he passed away. If you signed up to go on the trip this Monday, November the 17th, to Mount Magazine, we will leave at 8:30 a.m. and return between 4 and 4:30 p.m. Ladies' annual retreat will be February 27th through March the 1st. November the 25th is the midweek service for Thanksgiving service. December the 2nd, ladies' luncheon at Shannon Bowman's house. December the 5th is Stuff-A-Mug. December the 7th, the date that will live in infamy. The Young at Heart. The Young at Heart. Teens and children, Din Din and Devo and caroling. December the 7th. December the 8th, trip to Silver Dollar City. December the 12th, Young at Heart Christmas party. December the 17th, children's Christmas program. December the 24th, a candlelight service. So, sounds like a busy few weeks coming up here. Things can always get a little bit busy during the holidays. So, we will continue to ask for God's blessing on people who travel about. So, Matt, lead us in a prayer if you would, please, sir.
Father, it's always a privilege to come and be with our brothers and sisters in Christ and learn, study your word. We're very grateful, Father. Grateful for the place here at Robinson Avenue to do so. Thank you for Paul and Kayla and all they do for this church and their service. Thank you for Paul and his ability to teach us and challenge us through the book of Revelation. Pray that you will be with all of our teachers tonight, all of our classes. Just help us to glean from your word and take it and apply it and glorify you in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, we've come down to Armageddon. We talked a little about that last week, just to kind of go back over it. I guess they're recording. Comes from the Hebrew har. Har simply means a mountain, hill, mountain. So mountain of Megiddo, sometimes translated as city of Megiddo. And we talked about that Megiddo was in a very strategic location, guarding this pass through the mountains there, the mountains of Mount Carmel. And so this made it a very strategic spot. And we'll talk more about some of these major important events going through here. It came to be used then as a symbolic name to represent, as it says here, a place or event of momentous decision. Let me ask you then, thinking of a modern battle, there's one modern battle that I say modern, but closer to us than Megiddo. But if we were to say, if he doesn't straighten up, he's going to meet his battle. What battle? Waterloo. Yes, that's coming to our language. He met his Waterloo. She met his Waterloo. You're going to meet your Waterloo. Now, of course, that was Napoleon. Met his Waterloo. We might even say in World War II, probably the most decisive battle was the Battle of the Bulge, which turned back, Germany's final great effort to push through. And there might be others. In the Civil War, we would say probably Gettysburg was the great turning point. It was called the high tide of the Confederacy. And you can even go and stand on the spot where the Confederates made their final push and got as far north as they ever got, and then returned back, and it was downhill after that. So there have been through history many important changing events, decisive events like Waterloo or the Battle of the Bulge. Well, this was theirs in that time. So it was very famous for two great victories. This is where Barak had the victory over the Canaanites and Gideon over the Midianites. And two great disasters, but still decisive. This was the deaths of Saul, died there on the slopes or near the Megiddo, and then later on Josiah. We'll talk more about that later. So this is the moment then, momentous decision. God's judgment, as we will see, is coming on the beast. So just to kind of highlight this, just some examples. Judges 5:19, that here the kings of Canaan fought by the waters of Megiddo. 1 Kings 9:15, the forced labor that King Solomon drafted there. He built several different fortresses at Jerusalem, Hazar, and Megiddo, and Gezer. And then Ahaziah, king of Judah, fled, but they shot him down, and he fled to Megiddo and died there. Pharaoh Necho. This is one of the great tragedies for Israel. Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, was going up to help the king of Assyria at the very northwest part of the river Euphrates. There had been a coalition of countries that primarily the Babylonians and the Medes and some other supporters that were chasing the Assyrians and planning to destroy them, get rid of them. And amazingly, Pharaoh Necho of Egypt decided to go up and try to help the king of Assyria, because he didn't want the Babylonians and the Medes to become a great power lest they threaten Egypt. So he was trying to maybe help get the Assyrians to hold on kind of as a buffer state. But it didn't work. Necho got there too late, and the Assyrians were already pretty well wiped out. It was really an act of genocide on the part of the Babylonians. But on the way there, he sent word to Josiah and telling him that he was not going to go to the east or the west. He just wanted to go through Israel or Judah and not cause any problems. Just let me go through because I'm going up north. Well, Josiah was he was one of these guys, and he's the last good king. I mean, Josiah was a good king. But he had this thing about the Assyrians, as a lot of people did. That is, they just absolutely hated the Assyrians because of all the cruel things they had done. And Josiah knew he was going up to support the Assyrians, and he didn't want him to do that, and so he decided to go and try to stop him. Well, the prophet came to tell Josiah, don't do this. This is all in God's plan. Just stay out of it. But he wouldn't listen. This is the one time that Josiah didn't listen to God. He just had to get in on the act. And he was killed. As I said, Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. And it was, the Egyptians had an overwhelming force. The people, the Judeans, just didn't need to get involved. And then later on, Zechariah mentions this on On that day, the mourning in Jerusalem will be as great as the mourning for Hadad Rimmon in the plain of Megiddo. That mourning, he is referencing there the mourning that happened there, the national lament over the death of King Josiah. And, they sing that song, oh, how are thy great ones fallen, O Jerusalem? This is the idea that this was a great lament because Josiah had been such a good king, and to be killed this way, that there was a great, great lament over him in the valley of Megiddo, where he died. So again, all this is to say, Megiddo had these significance. It was in that area, and probably throughout the area, that Megiddo had been a significant place. And this also points up maybe that the Jewish Christians could help the non-Jewish Christians kind of understand the background on this, I'm sure, also. Okay, we'll keep going now in Revelation 16. The seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne saying, "It is done." Now, we've mentioned this before, that this is God speaking as if it's already happened. Which for God, I mean, if God says it's going to happen, what? It's going to happen. So it's the future present. And this is also saying God has already made his decision. It's done. Okay? It's already done. I mean, it's already decided. The fate is decided. The future is decided. It is done in God's eyes. So God has pronounced his judgment upon the beast, and God will not relent on this. It is done. And that decision then was powerful. And there were flashes of lightnings, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake, such as there had never been since man was on the earth. So great was that earthquake. This, again, is primarily just stage dressing. This was a powerful decision, and it was earth-shaking, okay? An earth-shaking decision. God has made his decision against the beast. The great city was split into three parts, and the cities of the nations and the cities of the nations fell. And God remembered Babylon the Great, to make her drain the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath. A lot of scholars believe, when he talks about the cities of the nations, that this may be looking forward to the various invasions of various barbarian tribes that will be occurring over the next couple of hundred years. And the other thing here that, by the way, Babylon, we know this is Rome. 1 Peter 5:1 calls Rome Babylon. Peter refers to Rome as Babylon. When he says the city was split into three parts, uncertain here, it may be the foretelling of the fact that eventually Rome will be split into three parts. Essentially, the city of Rome will be abandoned nearly by later emperors. Many of them will move, make their capital in Ravenna on the east coast of Italy. And then, of course, another Roman emperor will make his capital in Constantinople. So this may be a foretelling of that, the city being divided into three parts. So,
Could an earthquake do it? It says here in verse 18.
well, there was going to be earthquakes, but I think that's what we just previously looked at here. Are you talking about the verse we just looked at about earthquakes? I think we need to look at that just as we were saying, as symbolic of the powerful decision God had made. Amazingly, Rome was never hit by an earthquake that I know of. Many other places were, but I can't really point to any in all the history I've read about Rome that Rome ever had any real massive earthquake.
We need to remember that he's writing to these 6 churches and saying this was soon to come.
Yeah. And, of course, now we have to also remember that soon is in God's view. There are certain things, that are going to happen. We're going to see that, almost immediately he's going to set that up. But then this is going to be a continuing revealing, a continuing unfolding as future Christians will face other difficulties.
John said some that would still be alive.
Yeah. Now every island fled away, and no mountains were to be found. This might be interpreted that the people during these invasions, people would flee to islands for safety, remote islands, or they'd try to flee into the mountains. There's no place to fly to. There's no place to get to or any kind of refuge. And great hailstones, about 100 pounds each, fell from heaven on people, and they cursed God for the plague of hail because the plague was so severe. Again, it's a heavy plague, a heavy decision God has made here, and there's going to be a lot of repercussions for this. But I think the real message here is that they do not turn to God, but curse Him for inflicting the punishment they deserve. I don't know, maybe all of us sometime in our life felt we got a punishment or a whatever, dressing down for something we didn't think we deserved. But probably in the back of our mind, we really realized we probably did deserve it, but we just didn't want to admit it. But in this case, again here, this has been the theme that has been repeated time and time and time again, we've already said. Going back to Amos, that God has sent these things to wake these people up, and yet they refuse repeatedly to turn to God. They're so stiff-necked, so blind to their own sins, they just will not turn to God. Oh, my dear, I need your help. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I meant to alert you sooner. Yes, well, you can. I'm sorry. I thought this was going to continue. Okay, well, if you have any questions about what we just looked at, then sorry about the technical problems we have here. But we are going now. We're going to see the prostitute, the great prostitute, that's coming up. Not only have we been dealing with the beast, but now we'll also be dealing with the how God is going to treat the Rome as the great prostitute. So we've really kind of looked at the beast, the emperors, and how God, we're going to come back to that too. He's going to show us the emperors that we're dealing with, but he's also going to show us that his punishment upon Rome itself, the city of Rome. And the city of Rome will be seen really as this great prostitute sitting on 7 hills. So there'll be a repercussion even to the physical city of Rome itself, as we will see here, for what it has done. Well, of course, what we're saying, the city, I mean, its leadership, its emperors, its armies, all the different permutations that Rome has done over the centuries. So, that's it. So we'll go forward here. Chapter 17. Thank you, dear. She's learning real well, doesn't she? She can do it. Okay, we saw then the future defeat of Satan's forces at Armageddon. So that's, of course, we're looking towards this great decision. There's going to be this defeat. And the doom of pagan Rome, then, they're saying that the pagan doom is coming, the doom of the pagans. So we're going to see the great whore, the great prostitute of Rome now is doomed, but Christians are still going to face times of tribulation. It's going to take some time for all this to work out. There are still going to be, immediately, we're going to see what's happening immediately, but then we have to, again, draw lessons from that about future things, future events also, as we will see. So we're going to look at this timeline, and for the Christians, they're in the 7 churches to prepare. But from that timeline, we're going to introduce other lessons, as we will see. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came to me and said, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters." Well, there you go, the empire. You can name all the seas that the Roman Empire set upon. The Tyrrhenian Sea, the Adriatic Sea, the Black Sea, imagine, on and on and on. You could talk about that. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and with the wine of whose fornication the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And we're going to see about this too, how these other nations, other kings, and people like this will have, of course, gotten powerful and gotten rich on Rome. So even though Rome dominated them, they were still receiving the wealth of Rome. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of the blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. We will compare this later on. The great whore will be seen from a wilderness, we were seeing here. Later on, the holy city will be viewed from a high mountain, a high, clear mountain. So you can see there's going to be a contrast here. One is seen kind of down the swamps or whatever, down the valley and the wilderness, but now the city of God from a beautiful high mountain. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet. Purple, royalty. Scarlet, symbol of what? We sing a song. Pardon?
Royalty.
Well, purple is royalty. Though your sins be as scarlet. So, they'll be as white as wool. So scarlet usually is seen as sinfulness and wickedness. Adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, and holding in her hand a cup full of the abominations and impurities of her fornication. Abominations. The one thing you don't want to get involved with is anything that God considers an abomination. So, she's riding high on this beast. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of the earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So again, Babylon being used as this symbolic name of a wicked city. And when I saw her, I marveled greatly. It was a great, wondrous thing, an amazing thing to look at. But the angel said to me, "Why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her." So this shows the kings of the world bowing to the great whore, the great prostitute. The beast you saw was and is not and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on the earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the Roman is seated. I guess if there's any city in the world that is famous for that description, it has to be Rome, the city set upon 7 hills. I was reading about this the other day. It brought this to mind. When Constantine moved to Constantinople, he marked his city out and he made sure that it surrounded 7 hills because he wanted to keep that tradition going. So those are the famous hills there: Carinial, Verminial, Equiline, Caline, Aventine. The 2 most famous that still with us to this day are the Palatine and the Capitoline. The Capitoline is where the capital was. We still use it today. The Palatine was where the palace was, and that's where we still use it today. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero. Augustus was the first emperor, not Caesar. Caesar never was emperor. Augustus was the first emperor. So Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and then Nero.
We know Augustus as,
Pardon now?
and we know Augustus as
That was his original name. Augustus was the title they gave him, the August one. Yeah, he was the grandnephew of Julius Caesar. One is, so that would be 5 have fallen. One is, that would be Vespasian. The other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. Titus, he was only reigned for 3 years. It was an eventful, his first year was eventful. That was the year of Pompey's explosion. As for the beast that was and is not, and is the 8th, but belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. Diocletian. But what he's saying here, we believe, is that Diocletian is going to be another Nero. Why? What did Nero do? He's the first one to have actively persecuted Christians. But Nero then, so it's as if saying Nero is going to come back to life, and Diocletian is going to carry it even farther. We said Nero's persecution was bad enough. It was pretty much limited, though, to the city of Rome and its environs. Diocletian is going to make it empire-wide, the idea of worshiping the emperor. So he's going to institute empire-wide emperor worship. And that's going to make him even worse than Nero, but Nero-like. Nero better than Nero, worse than Nero, however you want to say it. So, any questions? I mean, to me, this is one of the clearest timelines you could ever see. I mean, it seems so very clear here. 5 have fallen, one is to come. And that's why when you look sometimes at the people who are trying to say when was the book written, some have said, well, it was written during the time of Nero. Well, then who are the 5 that have fallen, and who is the one that is, that doesn't seem to fit? See? And again, the same thing, it was written during the time of Diocletian. But if you're going to warn somebody about this guy, by the time you got the book written and got it distributed, Diocletian is probably going to be dead. See? But so in other words, to me, this fits so very beautifully because it gives them at least a decade or better to prepare. You know, hey, there's a guy coming. So they realized that Titus wasn't going to last long, but they knew that whoever followed Titus was going to be a baddie. Pardon now?
John did not write
Before?
before Diocletian. He did not write.
I thought we were writing right. He's writing right now. He's writing during the time of Vespasian. John, well, he had to. That's what we're saying. If John didn't write during Vespasian, when did he write? He wrote previous to Diocletian. That's what we're saying. He did not write during the time of Diocletian. He wrote previous to Diocletian, warning them about Diocletian. Diocletian is the guy that's coming. So, you know, if he writes during the time of Vespasian, somewhere around, you know, maybe 70, 71, probably not long after the destruction of Jerusalem. So I would say maybe around 71. Well, Diocletian comes in 81. By the time he gets the book written, has the copies made, sends it to the 7 churches, they circulate it, they have it out, they have a decade to get ready. Yeah, to be prepared for Diocletian. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm glad we want to make sure all this is clear. Yes.
You gotta have it all straight. Because it's not easy.
Okay. So this seems to me to be the best explanation because to me it just falls right in place here. That he's writing during Vespasian, gives him a decade to be prepared for Diocletian. Pardon now? We don't know, but probably during Nero's time. Nero did a lot of exiling. He did a lot of things like that. So he could have been, Nero reigned before Vespasian. He died around 67, thereabout. So he would have been, probably was exiled probably during the reign of Nero, we believe. And he probably didn't get out until after Diocletian or close to Diocletian's death. So we know that he did return eventually. He was eventually released and did return to Ephesus because we have writings, referring to him being there of some of his students, former students. Alice is looking pensive there. Yeah. Could be. So Nero seems to be the most likely candidate for his period of exile when he was sent off. But because we believe that John was, there were other such incidents like this. And I don't know, before Nero, Claudius really didn't take that. He chased some people out of Rome, but other than that, he didn't really fit around too much with the Christians. Nero, we know, did. So, okay. Anything else? Anybody? Yeah, we think, well, that's a long. Well, yeah, exiles can go for a long time. When you exile people, you intend them to be there for a while. Okay. Any other questions we're dealing with here? Good. Okay. So this kind of, I hope, gives us a little bit of a internal timeline about what's happening here. And the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. Now, again, this is debated. Some people say, well, it's the next 10 emperors. I mean, I guess it could be. Or it could be, from what we see later on, 10 puppet kings that Rome ruled over, like Herod. Herod was the king of Judea, but he was a puppet king to the Romans. He owed Rome allegiance. So since these were not enumerated or named, it may be, and I think we'll see some, to me, evidence later on that these tend to be these puppet kings, because they're going to be referred to later on as turning against Rome. So we will see. Now, by the way, this is a different beast here. I guess you can say we've changed horses. This beast seems to be the beast of Rome itself, okay? And the political power of Rome, not the emperor worship. So she's riding this beast that's a different beast, because they're giving the kings there. These are the political. This is the political side of the beast. Okay. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast, Rome. These kings. And they will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. So one by one, by the way, these puppet kings will fall, and interesting enough, many of them will fall to Christianity as Christianity spreads. That might be one way of looking at this. And the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute is seated are the peoples and the multitudes and the nations and the languages. So here is the Roman Empire at its greatest extent. And you can see all the seas that they did touch, all the way from the Red Sea in the south, briefly even over to the Persian Sea in the east, the Black Sea, even the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and so on, the North Sea. So, this was a great empire that touched many, many waters. So it's an interesting way to see how they could describe it this way, that this great prostitute sits on all these different waters. And the 10 horns you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute, and they will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her with fire. This is really, we don't think about this, but as time goes on, the Roman emperors actually turn against Rome. As we said, eventually some of them are going to just abandon Rome and move to Ravenna, and then later on they will move to Constantinople. And Rome is going to become, as we will see, just kind of a backwater, and Rome will be sacked 3 times. Now, we mentioned about the city being divided in three ways. Some people have pointed to this. We know at least Rome was sacked, pillaged 3 different times. So maybe that was a reference of future events too. So we don't know. But it is interesting how they put this here, that the emperors and the kings that they reign over will actually turn against Rome and devour it. They devour their own flesh. And it says why here. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over the royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. So all these people will hand over their power, but these Roman emperors will literally turn against Rome and make decisions that are not very forthcoming for Rome anyway, helpful to Rome. But that's God's plans will be. Yes, Alice? I think we're talking about here the Roman emperors. This is the political beast. She's riding a different beast than the original beast that we talked about. Rome. I know it gets confusing to me too, because there's a change. They changed horses in midstream here. They went from the beast that was Roman, the emperor worship, and the false prophet. But now they're talking about these kings. So this seems to be the political side of Rome. And the amazing thing is, as we're saying, the emperors themselves are going to make decisions and do things that will literally end up destroying Rome itself, or hurting Rome, or undermining Rome. And the woman you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. This is so very, very similar to what Daniel, the vision Daniel was given 400 years earlier, thereabout. Let's read what Daniel's vision says. Thus he said, as for the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and it shall devour the whole earth and trample it down and break it to pieces. And as for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be different from the former ones, and he shall put down 3 kings. And he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law. And they shall be given into his hand for a time, and times and a half time. That's 3.5 years or whatever. But the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away and be consumed and destroyed to the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. And his kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So, yeah, I think this is a foretelling. We can't get too much into the weeds here about it, the names of the king. But anyway, I think it is a foretelling that, yes. Because if you look at Daniel again, when they had the great statue, the great idol, the great statue, it says the little rocks will come, it's going to hit the statue in the foot and break it to pieces. And then they're going to, he will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. So it's talking about Christ, the Christian kingdom. So way back in Daniel, Daniel saw a vision also of momentous events just like this too. But at the end, here's the same promise. Here's the same hope. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom. Okay? And I wonder if Daniel kind of scratched his head and think, wow, a lot of things are going to happen. I wonder what all this means. Chapter 18. Okay, now we're going to be, again, speaking in the future present. The fall of Rome will be pronounced as if it's already occurred. So again, he's writing to these people who are going to face persecution, but he's going to tell them the future of Rome and the beast and all these things, God's already planned it. It's already decided. They're going to be facing judgment. Christians will suffer, but they know that the victory, eventual victory, will be theirs. So even though it's a letter of comfort to the 7 churches, even though the eventual victory is going to be down the road a ways. But they have that promise, yes, there will be a victory, an ultimate victory. So, now also in this chapter, we're going to say that when the Roman Empire does eventually end, and the city of Rome fall and all this, there's not going to be a lot of tears shed at first. Now, we know also that it will be reborn later on as a Christian emperor. But all that has to come later. First, Rome has to undergo a lot of tribulation itself and pay for a lot of the sins it committed through the years. As I say, Rome will be sacked 3 times by invading forces. So the fall of Rome was a long process. It just didn't walk along and go, poop. It was like a gradual, falling apart. Yeah, it's a continual. Rome was just, well, yeah, it was like they lost a little bit here. The people, these invading forces just nibbled away at the various edges of the Roman Empire. I like to point out when I was teaching, Western Civ and they follow Rome, when Rome, the classical day you hear for the fall of Rome date, 476, AD 476. That's when the Germans took control of Rome, okay, under Odoacer. And Rome, the Roman Empire essentially came to an end. Well, the Roman Empire was already at an end. When Odoacer took over Rome, that's about all they got, because all the other parts of the empire had already been taken away. So by the time Rome fell in 476, there really wasn't much left to fall. Okay? So it's just going to be a long process to do this. So spiritually, the fall of Rome began when Constantine became emperor in 312, and the following edict of 313 made Christianity legal, ending persecution. So that's what they're looking down the road. But it's still going to be a while. Now, immediately, that's the comforting message. Okay, God's on our side. We're going to win. But you're going to have to face some tribulation before then. There's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some good emperors who won't bother the Christians, and there's going to be some bad emperors who really will bother the Christians. So, they'll run hot and cold. You'll have some emperors who could care less about Christians, others who are going to do their best to get rid of them. So, persecutions and problems. Okay, any questions? The Emperor Theodosius I declared Christianity the official religion of the empire in 381. Now, let me just kind of give a historian's gripe here, hobby. So many times you'll say, well, Constantine was the first Christian emperor, and he made Christianity the empire. No, it wasn't he legalized Christianity, but it was not the official religion of the empire. It was just legalized. Now, they said, well, he was the first Christian emperor. Yes, he was the first. He was a Christian for the last 3 months of his life. He was baptized 3 months before he died. Now, was he favorable to Christianity and all that? Maybe he thought he was acting like, himself in that day and time, people could consider themselves Christians because they had grown up, they had developed this idea that, well, and this is so interesting, they believed very strongly that baptism was going to wash away your sins. It's in the first creed. I think maybe we talked about that. The Nicene Creed, it says very specifically there, baptism for the remission of sins. So they believed that. But what they didn't seem to grasp was that once you are baptized and you come in contact with the blood of Christ, we're told, continually washes us. As we confess our sins and we ask for forgiveness and we turn to Christ and we continue to look to Him, His blood will continually wash us. They somehow didn't grasp that, and they believed that, well, since baptism is going to erase all of our sins, and they weren't certain what happened after baptism, many people that day and time put off baptism until close to death. That way they figured, all right, all my sins will be washed away. I won't have time to sin anything great until I die. Because they didn't want to risk it, okay? So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept that they came up with here. Yes, ma'am.
Just a question. Is it in the historical record that Constantine was immersed?
It's unclear. It's unclear. Yeah, it just says he was baptized. Now, there were already, divisions on this, but it seems like immersion was still the preferred. Pictures later on show him being sprinkled, but that was after the Catholic Church had more to say about it. They were painting the pictures by that time. But all the evidences we have at that time, most of the baptistries, we've even showed you some, were immersive type baptistries. So all we can do is try to draw an inference from that, Alice. We can't say, but yeah, I think he was probably immersed because that seems to have been still the going thing. But if you look at the pictures, you get a whole different idea. But of course, who drew the pictures? Okay. Now, it's interesting, again, that he himself thought he was a Christian earlier on. His mama was a Christian. Helena was a Christian. And she had, it seems, a big influence upon him for him to recognize Christianity in the Edict of Milan. And it's interesting, he's the one that insisted upon the Nicene Creed because he wanted to bring unity to the church. And his mother was a big influence on his life. And it seems that at one time he said, well, I'm the 13th apostle because I represent the people who are not Christians yet. So, there's a great body of my kingdom, my empire, who have yet to come to Christianity. So I am representing them, trying to help them. So he considered himself the 13th apostle. And when he had himself, after he died, he had a special church built in Constantinople called the Church of the Apostles, the Church of the 12 Apostles. And he had 12 beautiful, empty but beautiful sarcophagi there. And then he had himself put there among them as the 13th apostle. Interesting. So, but anyway, yeah. So you'll hear people talk about that, but no, Constantine legalized, and that was great. He legalized Christianity, and it was a red letter day. I mean, this was probably one of the greatest events since when? When Christianity finally became legal and persecution stopped. It changed so many things. I mean, it revolutionized things. But it did not become the official religion until 381 when Emperor Theodosius then declared it to be. And even that didn't stick. He had to do the same thing again 10 years later in 391. He again declared Christianity. He said, he kept pounding away at it. And even then after that, even into the next century, there were still members of the Senate and others who were still resisting becoming Christian. So it didn't happen overnight, even when he declared it to be the official religion. Declaring, as we know even today, the president can declare certain things, but it doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Yes, sir.
Which emperor gave the church the pagan property?
That was Constantine.
Constantine
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, when he decided he was going to really support the Christians, he ordered that any property that the pagans had confiscated should be given back to them. Yeah. So he did it, and he even put most of the bishops and whatever, gave them a stipend. He did a lot of things that was he let people know, I am supporting Christianity. Now, he didn't take the step of being baptized until just before his death. But he was very, of course, people could see he was very, very supportive and very backing many things for the Christians.
Is he the one that makes the Bishop of Rome the big power?
Yes. He gave Miltiades was the Bishop of Rome, and he gave him his mother's palace, the Lateran palace, which became the Pope's home. The Pope didn't move into the Vatican until centuries later. for all those years, the Pope's seat was the Lateran Palace. And that's where he worked out of. And it was not until many, many years later that he moved. I think it was after Avignon that he actually moved into the Vatican. So, yeah, okay. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Constantine did a lot, pro-Christian. So, but he just didn't undergo baptism, which was typical of the day until just before death. Okay, any other questions? Well, that was the bell. Let's see what we... as we said here, the major event was 410. Rome was violently captured and sacked for 3 days by the Visigoths. In 452, Pope Leo persuaded Attila not to sack the city, but did not stop the city being sacked in 455 by the Vandals. Now, when I say he stopped him, what he did, Pope Leo worked out a deal with Attila the Hun, saying, if you won't attack the city and sack the city yourself, we'll strip the city of everything that's worth anything, and we will make a pile of loot out here, and when it gets big enough that you're satisfied, then if you'll then leave us alone. So that's what he agreed to. And we're told the Romans went through the city. They took down doorknobs and everything. I mean, anything that had gold on it, they took it out to the field out there and made a huge pile of gold and silver and whatever, and until Attila was happy. So in that sense, the city was sacked, but they sacked it themselves. They believe it was at this time that the treasures of the temple disappeared. That, remember that Titus had carried away the treasures of the temple, including the menorah. It seems at this time, this may be when that was dumped on the pile too. Because they emptied the papal treasury too. Okay, any questions? So 3 major sackings of the city, and then the empire would end officially when the German king or ruler, overtook the city in 475 and removed the last emperor, a boy, Romulus Augustus. So from that time on, and already by this time most of the city had declined, as we were going to talk about, mightily, and most of the emperors were working out of either Ravenna or Constantinople. And Rome had become virtually a backwater. About the only person left there was the Pope. And so it had greatly diminished by this time. Okay, any last questions? If you don't mind a little pun here. Attila, we all know about Attila. People say he was a bad guy. Really? No. But his wife loved him. She always called him Hun. Pardon? Okay. My students are always say, "Oh, Dr. Haynie, oh, Dr." Okay, well, you got to learn sometime. Learn these minutiae of history. See. Okay, thank you all so much for being here tonight. We hope that you'll have a good week, and we'll see you next week, Lord willing.